Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Simon Marks, and in this bulletin, we'll get you a roundup on stories developing all over the world. First up, the day's top headlines. Poland's defense minister warns that the crisis on the Belarusian border could last for months or even years, one day after Polish forces fired tear gas and deployed water cannon to deter rock-throwing migrants seeking to enter the European Union. British police say a suspect in Liverpool's Sunday blast was planning the attack for at least 7 months. Iraq-born Imad al-Swalmin rented a property in April and made purchases for the bomb allegedly at that time. In Canada, heavy flooding and landslides cut rail access to the country's largest port of Vancouver as the province of British Columbia struggles with torrential rains that have blocked roads and trapped commuters for days. New Delhi shuts down schools until further notice due to dangerous levels of air pollution, while residents of Pakistan's Lahore plead with officials to take action over the smoke engulfing their city. Indian national Kulbhushan Jadhav gets the right to appeal against a sentence by a military court. The Pakistani parliament passes a bill allowing Jadhav the right to appeal as per an ICJ order. A Russian-brokered ceasefire is being respected at the Armenia-Azerbaijan border after clashes between the arch foes left 8 dead and sparked fears of another flare-up in the territorial dispute over Nagorno-Karabakh. And mobile phone lines inside Sudan are cut again and soldiers deployed in the streets of the capital Khartoum ahead of planned pro-democracy protests against the military takeover. The United States is mulling a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympic Games, scheduled to be held in Beijing next February. The diplomatic boycott would be an act of protest against human rights violations by the Chinese government in Xinjiang. According to a report published by The Washington Post, the White House may announce that neither US President Joe Biden nor any other top government officials will attend the Games. However, American athletes might still be allowed to compete. The diplomatic boycott would be intended to make a statement against the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in China's Xinjiang region. The United States and many other countries call it genocide. The report claims that President Biden may approve the recommendation in the coming weeks. A spokesperson for the White House has clarified that this particular issue was off the table during this week's virtual summit between Presidents Biden and Xi. There is no official plan yet. However, several US lawmakers are already praising the proposed move. Republican Senator Mitt Romney took to Twitter and said he hopes the administration will send a strong message to the Chinese Communist Party. Another top Republican, Jim Risch, says a diplomatic boycott would be the correct call. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, has been a vocal supporter of a diplomatic boycott of the Games as early as May of this year. A number of Republicans want President Biden to go even further. They are demanding a total boycott of the event, which would also involve American athletes staying away from the Games. It is not clear that idea has White House support. Alarm bells are ringing again in the halls of the Pentagon. Senior Pentagon officials, led by General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, are becoming increasingly worried about China's rapid expansion of its nuclear arsenal. Speaking to the Financial Times, the top US general said the world is witnessing the largest shift in geostrategic power that it has ever experienced, and that shift is occurring at the same time as a fundamental change in the character of war. General Milley said that the US needs to act now to address the evolving global landscape. From land, sea, air, space to nuclear forces, he called for an urgent need to develop America's defense capabilities. However, he did not elaborate on what more the US could be doing to check China, given that the Biden administration is already in the middle of a 30-year, $1.7 trillion spending spree to upgrade America's nuclear arsenal. But here's why the Pentagon is worried. Currently, China is estimated to have between 350 and 400 nuclear warheads. By comparison, the US already has about 5,550 nuclear weapons in its arsenal, and Russia has even more. An estimate by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute places that number at over 6,000. But now China is planning to build its nuclear arsenal further. A recent Pentagon report claimed that Beijing aims to grow its nuclear arsenal to over 1,000 warheads by the end of this decade. China also has a nuclear triad. That means it can launch nuclear weapons from the ground, the air, or the sea. General Milley says that he views China as America's #1 military challenger. Beijing's latest creation, a maneuverable hypersonic glide vehicle, has also left the United States worried. The vehicle, which was tested in August of this year, is propelled by a rocket that can fly over the South Pole, evading US missile defense systems, thereby making America more vulnerable to Chinese attack. A report by the British foreign policy think tank, the Henry Jackson Society, has also claimed that China is secretly constructing military vessels capable of carrying fighter jets. The rapid escalation of China's nuclear arsenal signals a shift in Beijing's policy. Since China conducted its first atomic bomb test back in 1964, it has always maintained a no first use policy. That means it will only launch a nuclear attack to retaliate against a strike from somewhere else. Given China's expansionist aspirations, several questions are now being raised by foreign policy analysts. Is China thinking of abandoning its decades-long minimum deterrent policy, or does Beijing believe that it needs a stronger minimum deterrent in response to Washington's own rising capabilities? Storms continue to ravage the Pacific Northwest, just south of the Canadian border, but the waters have started receding in America's Washington state. Authorities there are maintaining a flood alert. Nearly 50,000 people were left without power on Tuesday. First responders evacuated people stuck due to the flooding throughout the day. The soggy conditions triggered mudslides in the region, prompting the closure of a major highway near the city of Bellingham. The highway is a thoroughfare that stretches along the west coast from Mexico all the way up to Canada. A drone video from Bellingham shows the area submerged and destroyed by the historic flooding.
Last night, we saw the water coming across here, and before we knew it, within a matter of minutes, truly a matter of minutes, it was over here. And so we moved the cars. It was so fast. You always hear how fast the floodwater is, but you don't realize it till you see it. It was really fast.
Supporting the evacuations, the US Coast Guard airlifted 10 people to safety from rising floodwaters. Video footage showed rescuers in bright orange jumpsuits attaching winch lines to evacuees on the roofs of buildings during the rescue operation. 3 children and a baby were among those lifted to safety by the crew.
I got another.
The weather, of course, does not respect international borders, and torrential rains are also wreaking havoc in Canada's British Columbia. One person has been killed and at least 2 are missing there after heavy rainfall caused flooding in the province. In the latest, the Port of Vancouver, Canada's largest, has said that all rail access has been cut due to the floods and also to landslides. All rail routes operated by the country's 2 largest rail companies, Canadian Pacific and Canadian National, have also been affected. Officials say search and rescue operations are continuing.
Canada's largest port, Vancouver, was cut off on Tuesday by major flooding and landslides, which have killed at least 1 person and left 2 more missing across British Columbia. Some areas in the province received over a month's worth of rainfall days before. At least 1 person died when a mudslide swept cars off a highway northeast of Vancouver. Authorities in the town of Merritt ordered all 8,000 residents to evacuate on Monday and said on Tuesday some remained trapped in their homes. Resident Bailey Allen's home was spared. Others weren't so lucky.
My aunt and uncle's house is in the water. My cousin, who just finished having a baby in Kamloops 2 days ago, their house is totally flooded. They have nowhere to go back home. So we're just all waiting, right?
The torrential rain has shut down transport routes operated by Canada's 2 biggest rail companies and effectively closed off the Port of Vancouver. That's put a halt to the transportation of wheat during one of the busiest times of the year. A segment of a British Columbia natural gas pipeline was shut as a precaution, as well as the Trans Mountain pipeline carrying crude oil. South of the border in Washington state, heavy rains forced evacuations and cut off electricity for over 150,000 households on Monday. The U.S. National Weather Service has issued a flash flood warning for potential levee failure.
Thailand's parliament has shot down a legislative proposal which reportedly aimed to weaken the military's political rule. The draft bill was introduced to scrap or make changes to key institutions and ensure a clear separation of powers in the Thai government. A joint session of the lower house of the parliament discarded the bill. 473 members voted against the proposal. Only 206 supported it. There were 6 abstentions. The draft bill was backed by more than 130,000 petitioners. It sought to abolish the 250-seat junta-appointed Senate and proposed a restructure of the country's constitutional court and its key state agencies. Thailand's 2017 constitution enables the military to extend its power by providing mechanisms of control through the Senate and independent agencies. The military defended the constitution, saying it was important to avert a political crisis. In the last 2 years, several bills were proposed seeking constitutional amendments. Only one of them was passed. It sought changes to the ballot system. Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha assumed power in 2014. Pro-democracy parties claim the 2019 elections, which cemented his position, were rigged. One of the biggest anti-government protests erupted last year when thousands of Thai youths took to the streets in a show of dissent despite COVID-19 restrictions. Their main demands were to dissolve the country's parliament and rewrite the Thai constitution. Thailand has seen 20 constitutions and 13 military coups since the end of its absolute monarchy back in 1932. Just 3 minutes apart, 2 deadly bombings shook the heart of the Ugandan capital, Kampala. In the latest in a string of attacks, suicide bombers killed 3 people and sent members of parliament running for cover. The first attack took place near the central police station and the second very close to the country's parliament. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the suicide bombings.
3 suicide bombers killed civilians and injured dozens in Uganda's capital, Kampala, on Tuesday. One carried out the first blast near a checkpoint at the central police station. Then 2 other bombers on motorbikes detonated near Parliament. The explosions saw lawmakers rush for cover and cars burst into flames, according to media reports. Bloodied office workers were sent scrambling over shards of broken glass, as a plume of white smoke rose above the downtown area. A Reuters witness saw burned cars behind a police cordon at the scene, and a local television reporter said he saw bodies in the street. Here's local city mayor Salim Uhuru.
Very unfortunate to see. I've lost one of my friends, a police officer, and the rest, the police will come and give more information about that, but it's very unfortunate. It's happening at such a time that we're trying to go back to our normal livelihoods. So if these people can come at such a premises of police and set off a bomb, then you know things are not good.
A Ugandan military spokesperson told Reuters that there had been multiple blasts and multiple casualties, but declined to give further details. Uganda's police did not respond to initial requests for comment. The bombs are the latest in a string of attacks over the last month. No particular group immediately claimed responsibility for these explosions. The al-Qaeda-linked Somali insurgent group Al-Shabaab has previously carried out deadly attacks in the country. Last month, another group, the Islamic State-aligned Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF, claimed its first attack there, a bomb packed with shrapnel that killed a restaurant waitress. Both the ADF and Al-Shabaab frequently use explosive devices and have been accused of killing thousands of civilians.
Over the years, increased fishing, tourism and construction have left fewer nesting grounds for Senegal's turtles. But as a result of the peace and tranquility created by the COVID-19 shutdown in the country, the shores of Western Senegal have witnessed a rise in the number of endangered turtle nests.
On a moonlit shore in Western Senegal, baby turtles sprint towards the Atlantic Ocean. The West African country's sandy beaches are historic nesting sites for several threatened sea turtle species. But in recent decades, increased fishing, tourism and construction have deterred the country's 3 species of turtle, which all appear on the extinction red list, from nesting along its urban coasts. However, the global health crisis and its accompanying restrictions, which led to darker beaches with less light pollution, has had a positive impact on the turtles. This is Saliou Mboji from the Somon Marine Protection Area.
The
borders were closed, so there weren't many people on the beaches or in the hotels. There were fewer lights on, and so more turtles came to lay their eggs on the beaches. This is why, since last year, we've seen such a return of sea turtles here. Although there were small nests identified here and there, last year we saw a great influx.
In Guério, just south of the capital Dakar, 15 turtles nested on the beach last season, up from just 2 the previous year, according to Environment Ministry records. But as more people return, the turtles keep their distance. Researcher and marine conservationist Charlotte Thomas has a stark warning if nesting rates return to pre-pandemic levels.
Turtles, for those who do not know, play the role of ocean cleaner, and they are often called ocean garbage collectors elsewhere. They regulate marine algae by eating them, and marine algae is depended upon by lots of other species, such as tuna, lobster and shrimp. If these turtles were to disappear, that would create an imbalance in the food chain and threaten the entire ecosystem.
In the meantime, baby turtles continue to make their way towards the ocean, with the help of volunteers.
An 86-year-old Selina Steinfeld has been crowned Miss Holocaust Survivor in an annual Israeli pageant. The competition honours women who endured the horrors of the Nazi genocide. Here's a report.
An 86-year-old great-grandmother was crowned Miss Holocaust Survivor on Tuesday in an annual Israeli beauty pageant designed to honor women who endured the horrors of the Nazi genocide. 10 contestants, ranging in age from 79 to 90, dressed to the nines and with full hair and makeup, walked the catwalk in Jerusalem. Organizers of the contest, which was cancelled last year due to the coronavirus pandemic, say it bestows glamour and respect on a dwindling number of Jewish women whose youth was stolen during World War II, but who went on to build new lives in Israel. Contestant Cuca Palmon, who survived a massacre in her native Romania, lives to tell her story.
What I went through as a Holocaust survivor, I would never dream that I can get to this position with an extensive family where I have 2 kids, 4 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. And I am here in this great age, 87. This is a godly thing. It is indescribable.
Tuesday's winner, Selina Steinfeld, was also born in Romania, where she survived Nazi attacks before moving to Israel in 1948. Other contestants included a woman born in Yugoslavia who survived a concentration camp in modern-day Croatia. Some critics and survivors worry the event cheapens the memory of the 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis. One woman, whose grandmother competed on Tuesday, disputed that point of view, arguing that the contestants, quote, deserve that everyone see how much beauty there is in these women who went through such horror.
Finally, London's Science Museum has a collection of artefacts on display that illustrate the scientific influence of ancient Greece in the present day and the contributions of philosophers including Aristotle and Pythagoras. It's opened its doors to visitors to dive into an ancient world of science and wisdom. We'll leave you with this report. I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Here's a look at the latest additions to London's Science Museum. At the Ancient Greeks Science and Wisdom exhibition. Here you have a statue of Hermes, recovered from the famous Antikythera shipwreck in 1901. Through these ancient artifacts, organizers aim to put on display the influence of ancient Greece and the contributions of Greek philosophers in areas of science, culture and philosophy.
He's in our mathematical body section, and there we're looking at how the ancient Greeks had a perception of the ideal symmetrical body that they believed was personified by victorious athletes who competed at the Pan-Hellenic Games, and sculptors rendered that belief into material form, such as the Oibora statue, by generating proportions based on a ratio calculated from the smallest joint in the little finger and building upwards.
It seems incredible even now, but thousands of years ago, Pythagoras taught how to define the beauty of art and music mathematically. While Aristotle's aim was to create a structure for understanding the functioning of the animal kingdom, both on land and sea.
He sought to provide a systematic study of the animal world. He had a particular interest in marine animals, and he was interested in how they lived, reproduced and died, and sought to classify them into groups based on their body parts and their habitats and things like that. With the fish plates, they're a wonderful example because while his drawings have not survived, the fish plates that seem to capture some of the anatomical detail he described were made during his lifetime, so it's quite an interesting connection.
From Aristotle to Pythagoras, the exhibition is thematically arranged on areas such as the seas, cosmos, animals, human body and music. It is also an initiative to celebrate the bicentenary of Greek independence. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Many other. This is right, Arab.